The Monday in Holy Week, based on Luke chapter 22, verses 54 to 65. So they arrested Jesus, took him off, and brought him into the high priest's house. Peter followed at a distance. They lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, and Peter sat in among them. A servant girl saw him sitting by the fire. She stared hard at him. "This fellow was with him," she said. Peter denied it. "I don't know him, woman," he said. After a little while, another man saw him and said, "You're one of them." "No, my friend, I'm not," replied Peter. After the space of about an hour, another man insisted, "It's true, this man was with him. He's a Galilean too." "My good fellow," said Peter, "I don't know what you're talking about." And at once, while he was still speaking, the cock crowed. The master turned and looked at Peter, and Peter called to mind the words the master had spoken to him. "Before the cock crows this very day, you will deny me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. The men who were holding Jesus began to make fun of him and knock him about. They blindfolded him. "Prophesy," they told him. "Who is it that's hitting you?" And they said many other scandalous things to him. I suspect most of us don't have much difficulty identifying with Peter in this story. We all know only too well what it is to promise that we'll follow Jesus faithfully, that we won't let him down, that we are ready to stand firm, to suffer if necessary, and to speak up for him and his kingdom whenever required. And then, the first time someone looks around at us with that gentle sneer, "Oh, that's the sort of person you are, I see," with a sardonic smile, then we back off. "Oh no, I'm not really like that. What did you take me for, some kind of fanatic?" Sometimes the gentle approach, the servant girl, hardly a threat in herself, is more telling than the full-on attack. If one of the soldiers had come up to Peter chest to chest, Peter's natural macho brashness might have made him stand up to him. But that wouldn't have been genuine following Jesus type of courage. Then once you've started down that road, it's harder to get back than you would have thought. Can't really say yes to the second question if you've said no to the first, can you? You will look silly and weak as well as giving the game away. And then the third time, "Peter, it would have been better if you'd never come, wouldn't it?" But sometimes Jesus allows us to discover our own real weakness, even if, or perhaps especially if, it makes us ashamed. How do you pray at that point, finding yourself inside Peter's skin when Jesus turns and looks straight at you? Jesus himself told us a few chapters back, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." You'll find that those words are as hard to say as "No, I'm not" was easy to say a few minutes earlier. But you've got to say them anyway. It's a hard step back, but a short one. But there's something else going on here as well. Something we need to grasp for when we find ourselves at the edge of the crowd, when people are being rude about God or religion or Jesus or whatever. People say all kinds of ridiculous things, and often they seem to carry the day. As they did on this occasion, Jesus was accused at various stages in his ministry of being a false prophet leading Israel astray. Clearly the soldiers had got wind of this. Very well, let's make him look stupid. Blindfold him, beat him about the head, and if he's a prophet, he'll be able to tell us who hit him. Very clever, very funny. They weren't the last soldiers, of course, to amuse themselves by abusing their prisoners. It's almost as though the shame that Peter was feeling at that moment was coming out into the open by being heaped onto Jesus' head. But we know, watching the scene, that Jesus is in fact a true prophet, and that he's just proved it. "Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times before cockcrow." And he has. Today, remember that Paul tells us that the Lord said to him, "My power is made perfect in weakness." As you think about Peter in this episode, think about your own weaknesses. Offer them to God for his healing and his blessing and his strengthening. Lord Jesus, taking my shame, knowing everything about me and still loving me, help me to learn my weaknesses and also to learn your saving and strengthening power.